bases dropped, August 20th. I'm pretty sure I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm pretty sure it's the Eastern time zone.
Okay.
I wasn't sure what day it was, actually, at first. It's kind of been a crazy last couple of days, but Atlanta United gets a win in Portland and on Soccer Over There last night. If you found it, because certain producer of the show last night put it on the wrong show, but you know.
Put it on the wrong network, yes.
Well, no, right network, wrong show. Wrong program in the network, right network. I mean, if you put it on, like, you know, some other sports network in the Southeast, that would have been a real problem. But there were people listening. There were people enjoying it. I was listening on a plane, which was kind of cool.
How did you do that, by the way?
You pay for the Wi-Fi and you listen. It's not that difficult.
Okay.
See, where I got thrown off is I tried to listen on the Soccer Down Here app, and it wasn't there. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I saw the tweet. They're broadcasting. What's going on? Oh, John and technology. Oh.
Yes, correct.
But the guys talked about it a good bit last night, and it sounded like there was a pretty good crowd at the brew house last night. People joining in. Very cool to hear Sapoon hop on and go back and forth. It was good stuff.
Yeah, it was. It was fun. And, you know, when we have those kind of opportunities when you have, and, you know, when you and I are there and when Nick is there at brew house, you know, and we throw stuff out to the audience, it's usually just yelling back and things like that. But this go round, when Sapoon had an actual point to go with Nick, and they took a deep dive into their topic and went back and forth about, you know, everything Miami, and then, you know, drifting it into the Premier League. I mean, that's what that's about. That's what that interaction's about. It's what we do here on the radio side when folks do things through social media, but when we're out at the brew house and when we do live remotes and things, that's the cool part about that, is that it's not just, you know, us behind a table sitting there, you know, running our mouths. If somebody has something to say, they can hop into the conversation, and it was fun to see it.
Absolutely. Every Monday, 6 to 8 going forward, we'll be at the brew house talking MLS, talking Premier League, talking Serie A, talking Argentina, talking whatever, because that's what Soccer Over There is all about. So we'll be back there next Monday. You can come down, hang out, hop on a mic, you know, say whatever you want to a degree, and we'll figure all that out. Also, there will be more of those types of things coming, so stay tuned. That's going to be pretty fun. More live SDH shows out in the wild. Looking forward to it as we go. All right, let's get into Atlanta and Portland, because I haven't had a chance to talk to you guys about it.
No, you have not.
It was an amazing venue. If you haven't been to Providence Park, I highly recommend putting that down on the list. It's a good trip. And Portland is the downtown area. Like, it's just very cool to walk up through a neighborhood. Stadium's right there. Just great look. I grew up on baseball, so like an old-timey baseball park like that. It was a minor league stadium for a number of years. Now it doesn't look like that at all, but there's still some of the structural elements, which is cool. Unbelievable broadcast position. Everybody with the Timbers was like incredibly nice to take care of us and make sure we had everything we needed. It was a fun one to call as well, because it was a really well played match between two very good teams. Atlanta was the better team on the night. They weren't perfect. They gave up some chances that they don't want to give up, but they took advantage of a couple of chances to get a 2-0 win. Let's hear some of the highlights from the broadcast on 92.9 The Game. Leandro Gonzalez-Perez opened the scoring.
Hands on hips for Pitti, up to the ball, strikes it, going for the front post, Joseph with a shot, loose in the net, and they score! Leandro Gonzalez-Perez! Joseph's shot saved by Clark, he spills the rebound, and LGP gives Atlanta United the 1-0 lead.
So let's start with the LGP goal. Corner kick from Pitti, and Joseph gets to the near post, gets to the ball first, takes it out of the air to redirect it. Clark made a really nice save on that one, but there's nobody to clear it away, and LGP just blasted into the net. Atlanta has been so much more dangerous on set pieces, John, in the last few weeks. They've been really good in creating a number of chances through those.
They have, and the larger question is your first sentence and a half after the highlight was over. How is Joseph Martinez allowed to get to the near post?
Don't know. That's some poor planning. That's some poor marking, and that's one that Giovanni Savarese is going to light into folks afterwards, because that's not the guy you let get to the near post and get a touch on a set piece that easily. Late in the first half, this happened.
Pogba wins it, plays it down the far touchline to Barco. Barco starts forward on Morea, drives it down the middle to Pitti, in stride, coming straight down the middle into the box, pushed down. It's got to be a penalty. It's not a penalty. What is going on? What is going on?
What a ball from Barco to play Pitti Martinez in, and I don't know.
I don't know.
I really don't know.
Don't know.
There's a lot of things I don't know about this one, as I've kind of looked back and read through some of the commentary about it, and I thought it was a penalty live. It was a quick transition the other way with the ball from Barco. Referee's behind the play, which it happens. That's fine. It's in the middle of the field, so it's 30 to 35 yards away from the AR on that side. Okay, that happens too. Looked like a penalty live. I mean, I in live action, it looked like a penalty to me. I can understand it not being called. What I don't understand is the process on the check, and I'm not going to say I don't understand why it didn't get reviewed. That's a different conversation. I don't know what happened with the check. It felt rushed. It didn't feel like there was any way that it could have been fully completed in time. And the angles I saw, I'm not sure how that isn't recommended for an on-field review. And this was just from the angles that we could see in the Fox booth next to us. Because our booth, we had the stadium feed coming in. We didn't have the Fox feed coming in raw. We had the stadium board feed coming in. And they didn't replay that one, which I can understand why. But looked like a penalty live. Looked like a penalty on the replay. I'm surprised that either the check didn't take longer and that it didn't go down for an on-field review. And it's, the frustrating thing about it is this is the second league match in a row where you have Pitti Martinez down in the box, and it really, last time the pro came out and said, yeah, we got that one wrong. I don't know what they're going to say about this one.
And I know that I'm waiting for the response on this one. I don't know what the response is going to be. I don't know if there is going to be much of a response. But full disclosure, the audio feed from 92.9 was about only 15 seconds apart from TV. So, really? Of course, from my cable operator. So it could have been different for others. But it was like about 15 seconds off.
That's not normal. That's strange.
And so watching it on TV, the house shook as I'm watching outside of Office HD, and the boss is wondering what's going on. 15 seconds later, she understands what's going on. And for me, it was borderline apoplexy. It's like, how can you not call that live? Then I think the process in the review, or the lack of the process in a review, I think it just kind of compounded the whole thing, where it seemed entirely too quick in the decision-making process, and it still ends up being, from my personal opinion, the wrong call in not making that call for a penalty for Pitti. So for me, and this was a topic that came up yesterday when we were doing the SDH PM Mega Crossover show, and Pro got into a bit of the discussion topics, and it's like, what's training like, and where do these guys come from, and all of these super generic questions. But I think really it gets down to, once again, there was a penalty that was not called that should have been called, and the review process compounded the mistake.
Yeah. Let's go back to something Pro said last week and all of the stuff about different situations. They made a comment about how when a defender gets even the slightest touch on a ball, that can often be enough in terms of a judgment call to not give it. I didn't see it live, obviously, from the angle. I couldn't see if the defender got a touch. If the defender did get a touch, it was the slightest of touches. And some people have said that there was. In my opinion, that isn't enough to take this foul away and take this penalty away. But if the professional referees organization is going to set that precedent that, okay, if the defender gets a touch, then it's not a clear and obvious error, and it's not going to get reviewed. Not saying that it's the right call, saying that it's not a clear and obvious error if there's enough of a touch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's it's a very important distinction. They're not saying that when a defender gets a touch, then they can do whatever. That's not what they're saying at all, and that's not what the laws of the game say. They're saying that if the defender gets the slightest of a touch, then that means it's not a clear and obvious error. If the defender doesn't get a touch, then it's a clear and obvious error, and you move on. I don't love that precedent. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't think it really needs to be the precedent. I think it can still be a clear and obvious error. I really don't get that, but if that's the mark they're going to set, at least it's a mark. I mean, at least it creates a little bit of a line. I hope that line moves at some point because I just don't think that's quite it. Felt like it was a penalty. I'm just a little surprised at this point that we've seen this back-to-back league matches, and he was taken down in the Campeones Cup, and that was judged to be a penalty after VAR was involved. So, look, Pity Martinez is good on the ball. And this is the flip side of it for me is that, yes, and we got into it a little bit afterwards. There was a comment made about this being Pity, crying wolf too many times, and that's why he doesn't get the penalty. And look, Andrew Weeby's not the first person to say something along those lines. That's been said by many, many people, including Atlanta United fans, about Pity Martinez going down too easily and this and that. This is a little different in my mind on a penalty. It is or it isn't. And reputation shouldn't play into it. If you go and look at the Carlos Vela penalty from the weekend as well, look, that one, very slight contact on the shoulder first. Now, if Vela hadn't went down because of the contact on the shoulder, I think he was going to be tripped. It's kind of hard to judge that because he went down first. But I think the defender was in a bad spot and was about to trip him. But in that one, there was a hand on the shoulder. I didn't think Herrera pulled Vela back. I thought he put his hand on his shoulder, which opens up the door for what happened.
Yeah.
And it did. But when you have Carlos Vela getting a call like that, and you have multiple times now where a defender is sliding in at one of the most talented dribblers in the league, and there's contact, that's frustrating, and that'll drive you crazy. Luckily for Atlanta United, it didn't, really. There was a lot of people who wanted to have a conversation with Armando Villarreal after the call, after the final whistle for halftime, on the way to the locker rooms. Okay. And then it was left. And that's a credit to Atlanta United and their mental strength because they come out to start the second half, and they do this.
Nagby, who's bumped by Valeria, now they'll escape with Julian Gressel coming down the right wing.
Nagby just bounced off of the challenge from Valeria.
Oh, what a ball up to Joseph at the top of the box. A chip score! Just like that, 45 seconds into the half, Atlanta United doubles their lead.
The ball from Julian Gressel to Joseph Martinez somehow split four defenders. From that distance out, which that's not supposed to happen. It was not safe for work. It was obscene. It was ridiculously good. And then the finish was, I don't know. I've talked to so many people after this happened, and it's like some people say, well, you're not talking about the finish enough because the pass was so great. And then people say, well, you're not talking about the pass enough because the finish was so great. It was an outstanding goal. Incredible goal, and not quite a backbreaker because there's so much time left, but that did take the wind out of Portland's sails just a little bit.
And it was a point that you and Mike were making on the air that started back in the first half, is that there was a lot of space to operate in the middle of the pitch, and Atlanta was taking advantage of it, whether it was folks going forward with two legs with the ball, folks bombing forward, or with the passing. And one of the things that struck me and has stayed with me about this match is just the sheer confidence in the passing, that Gressel pass being an example of it, going from one side to the other, doing things rapid fire and causing Portland to try to have to play catch up from wherever that last pass was coming from. And that's one of the things that has really stayed with me, is that the level of passing, the confidence of the passing game, and what they were able to do quickly to flip the field and work their way forward, with the Gressel pass to Joseph being a microcosm, or just an example of the success that they were able to have in the match over the weekend.
Late, Brad Gazan made a huge save, the best of his 5 on the night.
Short corner played quickly to Valeri out of the near corner. Dribbles around Miram to the end line. Cross, back post header. Saved off the line, goes in. Another shot wide of the back post by Abovasi. A diving header by Fernandez. Brad Guzan makes his best save of the year.
Huge save from Gazan on Brian Fernandez, who didn't have the best of nights in front of goal. He had one bad miss in the first half. But Brad made 5 saves, and not all of them were easy ones. It was a big night for Brad, and what I thought, and something I've talked about since the match, I thought his leadership was really important as well, where he kept calling guys over to keep things organized. He talked to Miram, he talked to Pogba, pulled him over at the right opportunity, on a set piece the other way, or on a deep throw the other way, or in a stoppage play, to keep it as organized as you can be in that situation. There were mistakes made. There were gaps, and Portland did have chances. But Atlanta managed that storm on the road pretty well.
And you end up with now let me ask you this. When it comes to, and I'm going to use the phrase and put it in quotes, when it comes to complete performances, quote, end quote, where does this one rank in this season when it comes to what they've been able to do on the pitch?
It's different because it's on the road, which adds some degree of difficulty. And it's different because it's against a really quality set of opposition in the Portland Timbers. It feels like the last 3 matches have each gotten better. And NYC was very good at home. Club America was crazy, but really good performance to lift that trophy. And then I think they topped it with the game in Portland because of the added degree of difficulty. It probably, I mean, if you took it, separated it, didn't put it on the road, I don't think it's as good of a performance as Club America or NYC. But when you take it at the end of that week and you put it out on the road and you manage situations within the match, you manage not getting that penalty call, you manage Portland getting some really good chances, they answered the bell on things as well as they have all year in this match. And that was what was impressive to me, was they just kept their heads down, just kept playing through whatever happened. If it was a mistake on the referee side, in their opinion, on the lack of a penalty call, if it was a mistake defensively, if it was a mistake in possession where he gave the ball away, just rally, get it right, move on. And that was really good to see. And you're going to need that as you get deeper, and you're going to need that the rest of the way where you have some difficult matches on the road coming up.
And I think that, when you look at what you're given in any given match, when it comes to Atlanta United, and Nick and I went over the foul numbers and versus card numbers last night too. But I think that when you understand going in that Villarreal isn't going to be calling certain things, then instead of waiting for that to be called, that particular action to be called later on, they adjusted, and you could tell in the second half when they came back out for the second 45 minutes, it's like, okay, we know what the calls are going to be, or at least we have a construct. We know what we think he's going to be calling. We have an idea what he's not going to be calling. So the physicality was there, and you just kind of took care of business, working within the idea of what you were given and not waiting for things to change back to the way you thought they should have been. And I thought that the in-game adjustment, I thought, was just as big as what they were able to do with the passing game and taking advantage of a Mabiala-less defense for Portland.
Yeah, so many elements to it. We'll get into more of them as we go this morning. If you guys have questions, comments, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Pick a hashtag, Overreaction Tuesday, Tuesday Thoughts, whatever works for you. Tweet at us. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Apolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, August 20th. Overreaction Tuesday, Tuesday Thoughts, whatever you want to get into, we will. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. We'll start jumping into it. Let's run through what happened around the league while we were gone. Some wild games on Saturday night. Red Bulls and New England Revolution, 1-1's the final. I want to know what's going on with the Red Bulls and Reese Buckmaster taking Michael Murillo's job.
Yeah.
I'm baffled by that one. I think Buckmaster's a pretty good outside back, but he didn't play in the World Cup last summer. I'm a little surprised that Murillo's been dropped in the way he has. It feels like something's not right with the Red Bulls.
No, but I think that things continue to get right with New England. I think it was 3 buses of fans that made their way from the Boston area down to Harrison.
On the field and people will respond. And it's something that I think gets lost in the shuffle when you talk about New England and Gillette Stadium and can it work and is it a soccer market and all that type of stuff. look, they've drawn really well at Gillette in the past. They have. It's a huge venue, and it's not the greatest even when they draw well. But the crowd and the fan base isn't the issue. It's the fact that they've had bad soccer to watch for a while. You give them something good, they're going to turn out, and they're going to hop on a bus, and they're going to drive down to Harrison, New Jersey to be part of this one and deal with the smell that happened.
Yes, that was the other part that I was going to get into.
I don't really want to get too deep into it.
No one wants to get too deep into it, sir.
No, I hope not. I hope they can figure that out, because that's not good when that's one of the main storylines coming out of it. New York City went to Cincinnati, 1-4-1. No shock there. The big story coming out of it is James Sands, broken collarbone. How will Dome Tarrant deal with that going forward? Is he going to slot somebody else in and continue to play the 3-4-3, or will he go back to a 4-3-3 and get another attacker on the field? I think they're better in the 3-4-3. I do. I think they have a ton of attacking talent, but it's a little less balanced in the 4-3-3, and they've looked their best playing 3-4-3. And Tinnerholm and Matarrita are the two that can make that team really work in that 3-4-3. I don't know who the option is going to be, though, as the additional center back with Sands out.
Cincinnati actually had the lead here. Alan Cruz puts one in the 30th, and then Tati Castellanos continues his hot play. 2 minutes later, Hebert with a brace, Castellanos with a brace, and it was 2-1. It was 2-1 at the break, and everybody's going, okay. And then all of a sudden, 70th minute, everything hits the wall, and NYCFC gets the Duke.
Columbus, Toronto, 2-2, 2 goals in the final 10 minutes, one for each side after goals on either side at halftime. Toronto took the lead. Pedro Santos gave Columbus an equalizer. Then David Acom in the 82nd minute gave Columbus the lead. Josie Altidore spoiled the party for Caleb Porter with a goal in the 90th. And they share the points. Columbus kind of threw these points away with that Acom goal. It felt like they should have been able to see that out. And Toronto, they hang around. They're not convincing at all right now, but they're hanging around.
I was going to ask, is this more of an indictment on Columbus or more of an indictment on Toronto after a 2-2 draw like this when you have all this back and forth?
Well, it's the 9th and 11th teams in the Eastern Conference. It's probably about what should happen, when you really get down to it. I think Toronto's a better team. I just don't think they play like a better team, and I don't know why that is. So Columbus has been playing much better as of late, but they have 27 points, and I'm disappointed that my sarcasm in the full-time report was not recognized when I said that, when I brought up Columbus as one of the top teams right now. It was a joke. I was really tired, so I guess it didn't come off as well as it should have. They have not lost in a while. That part's true, but they've lost 14 times this season, so they're not among the elite in any conference at the moment. But they should have gotten 3 points here. I guess credit to Toronto for stealing one. It keeps them level with Montreal and Orlando, 7, 8, 9, all on 34 points. Keeps them one ahead of Chicago, who's on 33. But I feel like Toronto should be living in a different neighborhood than those teams.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And that was why I asked the question, because of everyone who's locked into the notion of, Toronto, playoff team, they're going to get on a run. They're going to do it. And they should, but they're not.
They should, but it's not happening. Montreal, not happening. 3-0 lead. Should be happening. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You blow it at home. 3-3. Dallas gets a point. Big point for Dallas because they're in a fight out west. They are right now on the outside looking in on 37 points. Portland's on 37 as well, but they have 2 games in hand. San Jose is on 38. They have 2 games in hand on Dallas. Dallas, this point, and this is going to sound weird when we talk about it, comparing Dallas and Toronto. This point feels like it's a lot more meaningful for Dallas. One, because of the way you got it. You came back from 3-0 down on the road. And two, I don't think Dallas has the same expectations as Toronto. So I think for them, this is a point that could spur them along a little bit. I wonder if the late goal for Toronto will give them that same feeling. I don't think it will.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this Montreal match and how it completely and totally fizzled out, and the only thing that popped into my head was what is Joey Saputo thinking about right now? After 2 goals in the last 5 minutes, to go from 3-1 to 3-3, and something that you had complete control of with Lapalainen with a brace. You had 9 shots, 4 on target, 3 in the back of the net, and you still come out with a 3-3 draw.
Dallas has 3 winnable games coming up as well to make some noise out west. They host Houston, they host Cincinnati, then they go to Chicago. They need to win all 3 of those, because then after that, they go to Seattle, they host NYC, they go to Colorado, and they finish hosting Kansas City, who's not done yet. We'll get there. Dallas has got an opportunity to pick up 9, and they need every bit of momentum they can take out of that game in Montreal over the weekend. Chicago, 2-0 win over Philadelphia in Chicago, and I think what's the most impressive thing about this one for me is that a red card in first half stoppage time to Nicolas Gaitan. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, here it is. They're going to blow it. They didn't. They kept the clean sheet with 10. They keep Philadelphia at bay, and they stay alive in the Eastern Conference. They're in a tough spot because they've played 1 more match than everybody around them. They played 2 more matches than Toronto and New England, but they're keeping themselves alive, and Veljko Paunovic, he found a way to get this done.
Yeah. And Philadelphia had, and I'm looking at the numbers here, Philadelphia 20 crosses on the match. And, yeah, I know we get wrapped up in shots sometimes, but 18 shots, only 3 on target for Philadelphia in that match.
I mean, you'd have to get wrapped up in shots. It's how you score to a degree. Chicago will argue otherwise because they only had 5 of them, and they scored twice. One was a penalty, Nemanja Nikolic. Chicago had 30% of the possession, but they were able to weather the storm out. It wasn't pretty. It's at home. You don't really want to play that way, but second half, when you're down to 10 men, you don't have many choices, and you're able to keep Philadelphia out. That's a really disappointing result for Philadelphia combined with the rest of the weekend and how it went. Puts a little more pressure on the Union going forward in my book, and I want to see how they respond to this because feels like maybe the biggest test they've had this season, and they have DC United come into town on Saturday. Okay, let's move out west. Minnesota and Orlando 1-1. Craziness all the way around. Orlando appeared to have a 1-0 win. Minnesota gets a goal from Abu Danladi. Then Orlando appears to have a penalty to win it, but it's brought back for a correct offside call. It was a really good use of VAR and the whole situation because it looked like it was going to be a penalty due to a handball, but Tesho Akindele was offside on the cross in that resulted in the handball, and it's waved off, which was right, and that's why you have a video assistant referee. Really good job there, and it finishes 1-1. Scrappy from the Lions. Really scrappy from the Lions on the road in a tough place to play against a team in Minnesota that's really good. They also get Mauricio Pereira into the team for the second half, and that's big because I really do feel like he can be the player that changes the narrative a little bit about what Orlando can be. And you get Pereira and Nani playing together. Still, there are things you got to figure out. Orlando won't be an easy out for anybody the rest of the way.
When you started to mention Pereira, I was going to follow up and ask how you thought that he was going to integrate with folks like Nani and be a part of that offense. Is he going to be more of the straw than anything else when it comes to making things go for that offense? How are you envisioning in a perfect world Pereira being active there?
We'll have to see. I think he'll be the number 10. I think Nani will be out wide, but Nani will want to tuck in and play with Pereira a little bit, and it gives you two guys who are good on the ball, can pick out a pass, can lead this team forward. And I don't know if they've had another one like that. Nani's still got it. Nani's still a really good player in this league and a focal point for this team. But now you take a little bit of the pressure off of him. And now Pereira will soak up some of that pressure. I think it's going to work pretty well for them. But how fast can Pereira get up to speed? That's always the question when you have these guys coming in midseason. And he's coming from Russia. You know, where's his fitness going to be? How fast is it going to take him to get up to full fitness? And then just get, into the mix with this group and start to learn the different personalities and the way they play. And the other thing about Orlando is they have to figure out what they're going to do up top. Dom Dwyer just is not. No. I don't know if it's a mental thing at this point. I don't know. But he is just not what he used to be right now. Do you go to Tesho Akindele as the forward up top? Do you go to Benji Michel, the young homegrown, as the forward up top? I'm honestly kind of leaning to the last option. I think Michel is maybe the most dynamic of what they have up top. Tough spot in the season to put Dwyer on the bench, but you got to get results now, and Dwyer's not giving you much of anything up top. So the other thing, too, is I think if they get the midfield of Pereira, Nani, and, in my opinion, Chris Mueller, if you get that three working with a forward that is functional, you've got the rest of the pieces to be solid. Sebastian Mendez, really like him as a central midfielder. Carlos Asquez, I would play Mendez and Asquez. I think that's a great pairing. You have Will Johnson, who can still deliver from time to time for them as a central midfielder. And you're much better in the back. Lamine Sané has kept it together this season. He's been pretty good. Robin Janssen was a very good pickup. Out wide, you do have a few questions, but they've been serviceable. So it's not going to be easy for Atlanta going into Orlando on Friday night.
No, and I know that people get wrapped up in the whole rivalry aspect of it all, but this is an Orlando team that is getting better. This is not your last year Orlando team, and I know that there is a certain amount of juju that is still attached to when Atlanta plays Orlando. Orlando is becoming a more and more a tougher out when it comes to trying to get full points in any kind of a result. And to your point, I want to see how Pereira integrates, and I want to see how long that takes. But I still think that there comes a time, doesn't matter what you're paying somebody, that if they're not producing, then you got to sit them. And like I said, I don't know if it's the yips with Dom Dwyer or what, but he is a negative out there right now. And if you're still trying to get above the playoff bar and sneak in somehow, you can't have players like Dwyer out there who are subtracting from your overall idea when it comes to what you want to do.
Yeah, that's the best point. He's a negative. He's hurting the team right now, and you have two other options in Michel and Akindele to play that role. And with Pereira coming in, it puts more of an emphasis on James O'Connor making that decision up top. And I'll be really intrigued when the lineup sheet comes out on Friday night as to what it's going to look like. I just don't know if Pereira is going to be ready to give you more than a half yet. Played 45 here. Can he get you to 60? Can he get you to 70? Do you start him in this game? I think they do. I think you have to. It's the wild card you can play. So you play him, and you just have to figure out the rest. And I think Nani, Pereira, Mueller is a pretty dangerous trio in the midfield for them if they can all get on the same page. Sporting Kansas City, 2-1 winners over San Jose. Kansas City's staying alive. 31 points, 26 matches played. They're 6 points out of the final spot. Portland's in it right now, 37 points, 25 matches played. Dallas is also on 37, 27 matches played. San Jose's on 38, 25 matches played. I still don't want to think that they've run out of gas, but the recent results.
Yeah.
Jarrett Smith, what's happening to your Quakes?
Yeah, we need Jarrett to chime in on this whole idea. 44 shots total in the match, 39 fouls. And the juice box purveyors had it right. And coming into this one, they had Sporting as a slight favorite at minus 106, if memory serves. And they come out of there with full points, 2 goals in the second half. Wando got another one. So he's now 10-10. Is that right?
Double-digit goals in 10 straight years. Unbelievable from Chris Wondolowski, a guy who, will never get the credit that he deserves, and a lot of that is because of what happened in the World Cup. And, yeah, I get it. But what he's done in Major League Soccer, double-digit goals in 10 straight years, that's very difficult in any league around the world. So full credit to Chris Wondolowski. It's not enough on this night, though. Kansas City gets the 3 points and keeps their playoff hopes alive. Houston and Colorado, 2-2. Really not a lot to get into here because Houston needed a full 3 points to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're still right there with Sporting Kansas City. But it doesn't feel the same, does it?
No. And you wonder about new coach bounce and all that kind of stuff. Manotas got a brace within 5 minutes to draw him back, even at 2-2. But the best word that I can give, wow, I just looked at the numbers. 26 shots for Houston on the match, 8 on target, 23 crosses to go with it. But the word that comes to mind for me when it looks at Houston is adrift. And that's the best way that I can kind of put where they are right now.
LA Galaxy 2-2 with Seattle. That's an impressive point for the Galaxy because Daniel Sturridge was sent off in the 6th minute. They did give up a 2-1 lead that they had earned through Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Goal, penalty, another kind of questionable penalty. And Zlatan gets the call. Vela got the call as well on the weekend. Pitti doesn't get the call. I thought Pitti's looked the most like a penalty, but just saying. Zlatan with the brace. Jorgen Skjelvik with the own goal in the 82nd, and Seattle rescues something out of it. How are both teams going to come out of this one in terms of how they feel in your mind?
No, I think that you had it. I thought that for LA it was a good point, and I thought for Seattle I thought it was 2 points lost. And, yeah, the numbers are dominant across the board, and it tilted, obviously, when you get a red in the 6th with Steris on Dogso. But for me, it does look like Seattle had an opportunity, and as someone who was having a late-night meal, getting a late-night carb load, watching this particular match, and waiting for Seattle to do something, a man up, and it wasn't coming, and it finally did when Rui Diaz did in transition in the 42nd. You're sitting there going, okay, it took you this long to do this. That, for me, was not a good sign. And then, obviously, Zlatan with the equalizer right before the half. But it took entirely too long for me for Seattle to get something done. And I give LA all the credit in the world for getting out of there with a point. So to me, it chalks itself up to lost opportunity for Seattle. It really does.
Yeah, but they get one back, so they turn the 2-1 into a point. So there'll be a little bit of consolation there. Galaxy blow a 2-1 lead late, but they did it with 10 men, so there's some consolation there. I still have questions about Seattle, and we'll see how they do in their big match with the Portland Timbers this upcoming week. Yep. Real Salt Lake had an opportunity against LAFC at home, and they were not able to take advantage of it. They lose 2-0, 2 goals in the second half. Walker Zimmerman, second yellow in the 48th minute. He's sent off. Aaron Herrera is sent off for Dogso pulling on the Vela penalty. Right call on Herrera. If you're going to make the call, if you're going to call the penalty there, you have to call it for the pull because there wasn't any contact at the legs where you're going to be playing the ball. And any time where there's a pulling or pushing, according to the laws of the game and the interpretations, you're not playing the ball. That doesn't fall under the Dogso triple jeopardy avoiding situation where the rules were rewritten a bit recently. I think there are still some people who think that now there is no Dogso red in the 18 where a penalty happens, and this is a prime example. If it is a judged to be a pull, and it had to be when you watch this back because there wasn't anything else to call, you have to show the red. So Herrera takes the red. I still don't think it was necessarily a penalty. I think it was going to be. And I think, honestly, if it had played out and Vela had kept going, he was going to be tripped, which would have not been a dog so red because Herrera was stepping towards the ball. But we didn't get to see that because Vela went down, and he gets the penalty. So he didn't do anything wrong. He got the penalty. He did the job. Some people will say otherwise. That's fine. But Vela gets the penalty for his team. It's 10-10 at that point. RSL goes for it with 3 substitutions. They give up the goal to Diamande in the 82nd, and they lose 2-0.
Yep. Brought in Sam Johnston, Joel Plata, and Salcedo to try to flip things at 10v10. But, yeah, I look at this one, and RSL had their chances, and we've talked about how tough it is to play at Rio Tinto, and LAFC persevered. And I think really that's probably the best word that I can use considering everything that went around them that night. So, once again, LAFC continues to do LAFC things, getting out of there with 3 points, adding to the resume that they put together this year. But I'm still reserving full thought on LAFC till we get to the postseason.
Yeah, I still have some questions about LAFC in those moments, but we will get answers soon enough. Last match of the night was Vancouver hosting DC United, and surprise, surprise, the Whitecaps get a win, and the Couch Ultras go wild in Vancouver. Jordi Reyna with an 18th minute goal, and they make it hold up. This has got to be a frustrating one for DC. 24 shots. It's a winnable match on the road coming into it. You don't get anything coming out of it. You dominate the game, 65% of the possession, 24 shots. Only 2 of those shots on target, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good at all. Only 1 shot on target in the second half. That's not good.
No. And you mentioned frustrating, and the beauty of the hot mic. We found out how frustrated a certain individual is about the activity, and then he continued to discuss it after the match too.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's the point that you're at in the season. It means a little bit more right now, and yeah, you go to a long trip. And you go across the country, and it's against a bad team, and it's a team that you should be able to take advantage of and pick up 3 valuable points on the road, and you don't. So now you're in 4th place. NYC's ahead of you. Philadelphia's ahead of you. Atlanta's ahead of you. Red Bulls are 1 point behind you. Revolution have been streaking a bit. They are 4 points behind you. DC's not in a comfortable position to host a playoff game at this point. So we'll see how they rally, and they get a big head-to-head coming up with the Red Bulls. So this week, we're going to learn a lot about what this playoff table looks like. I think there's still a lot of questions to be had, but we might get a few answers this weekend. We'll see if we can give you guys a few answers to your questions and or comments on the Twitters at Soccer Down Here right after we take a quick break. We'll be right back.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. SDH, August 20th. Getting caught up on the weekend, getting caught up on time zones and days of the
Eastern.
week and states and where I'm at and all those sorts
Tuesday,
of things.
Georgia, the office.
I'm still questioning all of that. Still questioning every single bit of it. But we're back talking to you guys on SDH, and that's always fun. So what are the peeps saying on the Twitters, John?
Chris Hutchison. 5 of our last 9 league matches are on the road. All 9 are against pretty stout opponents. My view is that the next big step in the team's evolution is consistently getting results on the road. What can they do to achieve this?
It's a good question, and it's a good point because it's not going to be easy down the stretch for Atlanta either. You know, we've talked about it for a few other teams, what they have coming up. Atlanta's got some difficult things on the horizon. I think how you continue to get consistency and how you continue to pick up results on the road, you look at the Portland game as a little bit of a blueprint. And Atlanta was very brave in this match. I feel like that's the buzzword right now. And that's the one that keeps coming to mind. And when you're going to play the way Atlanta United wants to play, they want to build up out of the back. They want the ball. They want to break you down either with a pass or with a dribble. You have to take some chances. And when you don't do that, it can be difficult. And we've seen this team talk about it and struggle with that kind of in-between. All right? This game against Portland, there really wasn't much in between. When there was, you were able to recover for it. And I thought one player that was kind of in that in-between in the first half was Florentine Pogba. There were a couple different points, and I'm not talking about the defensive side. I'm talking about in possession with the ball. There were a couple different points where he played a pass, and I think Merrim at one time gave him a ball back, but Pogba didn't continue to step up. I think Pitti gave him a ball back. He didn't continue to step up. And Atlanta lost possession. They were able to deal with it. Second half, that wasn't happening. Whenever Pogba played a ball, he kept moving. He kept going. That's what's going to work for this team. And that's the 3-5-2. We've talked about it so many different ways and what it does for you in terms of that shape and that structure. But one thing you need for it to really be truly effective is for Pogba and or Robinson and or Leandro Gonzalez-Perez to step up in the run of play from time to time, not all the time, but sometimes, and especially when you're in possession and you're cycling, to give you that extra person because you're taking away an attacking option. If you play a 4-3-3, you're going to have one more player in those spots. 3-5-2, you're not. You need somebody to be that extra guy. And Pogba in the first half, I thought a couple times, was reluctant to do that. And that's something that you go back to mentality on the road. He wasn't reluctant to do that against Club America at home. You need to play that way on the road. And I thought Atlanta was much closer in the Portland match to playing in that manner. They were brave. They were bold. Yeah, they were a little shakier defensively because Portland's a good team. For sure. A really good team. They're going to catch you a couple times. But on the whole, you played your game. And I don't know how many times that's happened on the road this season. That's impressive, and that's what you're going to need to do down the stretch.
And we saw, because of the space that Portland was allowing Atlanta United. You saw Miles come forward and dribble into space. I mean, there was one run that sticks in my head where he comes from the defensive third and gets all the way into center circle before having to make any kind of an outlet pass to anybody to continue the play going forward. So you saw it from Miles. You saw it on the goal with LGP. You see it on set pieces because you know that Miles has scored, but it has been wiped off the board in those kinds of situations. But to see Pogba come forward, to see Miles come forward, to see LGP come forward, it's that bravery that we talk about, and it's cool to see the guys in the back row of the theater kind of work their way forward sometimes.
One more question before we take a break to start hour number 2.
One more question. Nathan Pugh, I don't know what else to say, but I feel confident in this team with the remaining 8 league matches. If they can rekindle the same road form from Sunday moving forward, they can definitely push NYCFC right to the end. # on par reaction Tuesday thought.
Yeah, this was the kind of game that'll give you confidence, and this was the kind of game that'll give a group of players confidence. It'll give a technical staff confidence. It'll give a fan base confidence. And with what you have coming up on the road the rest of the way, you need that. So are you going to be able to replicate this every single time out on the road? It's hard. It's hard for any team to do that anywhere in the world. You don't play the same way on the road as you play at home. That's why it's difficult to go out and do it. That's why Atlanta now, since they came into the league, having the most road wins of any team in the league over that period of time, it's incredibly impressive. That just doesn't happen. Atlanta's doing it better than anybody else in the league over the last 3 years. So doesn't mean you win every time. I think this gives you a bit of a launching pad, though. And your next 2 are both tricky because it's one thing to get up for Portland and be up for that. It's an MLS Cup rematch. You know their quality. I think there is a very healthy level of respect between both sets of players in this match. Really hard-nosed, but you have a lot of guys with a lot of different stops in their careers in common. You had a lot of guys having long conversations after the game. Ton of respect there. But now you go to an Orlando team that it would be easy to overlook. I don't think you can. I don't think you should. I think this is the best Orlando team that Atlanta's ever faced. Better than the one you faced a couple weeks ago because Mauricio Pereira should make them a better team. And then you go to Philadelphia, a team that I don't know if they get enough respect because they have been good this season. I think you still have to ask, are they elite? And I'm not sure what the answer is to that yet. But those 2 games, you can't slip up. You can't overlook anything, and you've got to play with the same level of intensity that you had in Portland. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Hour number 2, it's going to be dominated by you guys on the Twitter, so tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. We'll get to that. We'll talk St. Louis. We'll talk everything else that's happened around the league and around the country over the last couple of days. We'll be right back.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, August 20th. Big news on the horizon at 12:30 Eastern or Central in St. Louis.
12:30 Eastern, according to MLSsoccer.com.
Time zones don't exist to me anymore. I'm still wondering
it's a
what
blend.
time it is. Yes, time is a flat
blend.
circle or something or other.
There you go.
St. Louis will be joining Major League Soccer. Don Garber will be joined by leadership from hashtag MLS for the Lou. I like that the release on MLS Soccer says, by leadership from hashtag MLS for the Lou. I like that that's the official organization. This is great. Hashtags are moving up in the world. St. Louis's mayor, Lyda Cruson, will be there as well. So, St. Louis will be number 28 in the league. Who will be 29 and who will be 30? That's the question. Looks like St. Louis is going to come in 2022, according to the reports. They have revealed renderings for a 22,500-seat stadium in the West Downtown neighborhood in St. Louis. I think St. Louis will be successful. It seems like a good ownership group as well to make this happen. I think in some ways the Rams leaving opens up a door here for St. Louis to really have this go over extremely well. You have the Blues in the NHL. You don't have the NBA in St. Louis. You have the St. Louis Cardinals, who are one of the most historic brands in Major League Baseball. But soccer in St. Louis is historic in a lot of ways as well. It was the hotbed of American soccer for most of the 20th century, to be honest. Didn't really translate on the professional side. Like in the old North American Soccer League, it never quite clicked in St. Louis as well as it did in some other cities. Then after that, they've had some quality teams, but not the right ownership. St. Louis FC has done a good job in the USL Championship, but it's not the same type of group in terms of clout and ownership and resources that you're going to have here with Enterprise Holdings and Worldwide Technology both involved in this ownership group. You've got a lot of heavyweight St. Louis hitters in this group. So it feels like it's all come together the right way for St. Louis. I think the league's always wanted to be in St. Louis. They just haven't had the right group come together. Now they have. It feels like the right time with the Rams gone. I think St. Louis will be really successful. And then you look at the size of that stadium and you're like, oh, well, there are plans to expand it. We'll have to see.
And that to me, I'm, and full disclosure, I have one of those hashtag scarves here in Office HD.
Oh, well, there you go.
And showing support for the bid. I think that when you donated and picked up the scarf, it was for one of their programs that was tied to the bid there in the city and helping out the youth and that kind of thing.
They've done some stuff with that already. Yeah, it's good.
So that was part of the benefit of being a benefactor. But yeah, I'm looking forward to St. Louis. And for me, as a child of the indoor game when it was on cable when we were growing up, you got to remember Slobo Ilievsky and players like that in the indoor game. But knowing how good of a community St. Louis is, and you and I have been cool to call matches with St. Louis FC and see how they've been a part of the footprint there too. I'm looking forward to this next step. But as you said, The group reveals a 22,500 seat stadium in West Downtown. Can it be bigger? I hope so, because I think that the league is getting bigger. The league is growing, and I think that the appetite for the sport will grow well past 22.5 there in St. Louis.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think they're going to need to be prepared for it. St. Louis, probably on the professional side, most people are going to remember those indoor days more than anything outdoors. In the heyday of the North American Soccer League, St. Louis wasn't one of the main attractions. The St. Louis Stars, and I'm talking heyday, at the end of the Pelé time, like late 70s, that was kind of the top run for the league. St. Louis Stars averaged just over 9,000 per game in 77, and I believe that might have been their last year, actually. Yeah, it was. Didn't have the right ownership. And this stuff doesn't mean that it's not going to work for St. Louis and MLS. I think, on the contrary, I think it will work extremely well. It's just always been baffling to me that in such a great soccer city with such a great soccer history and all of the structures to the game on the youth side and all the different clubs that have been around for decades that have youth teams and senior teams and over 40 and over 50 teams, that no one stepped up with the money to do it in the right way, in a big way. And now, it seems like that's changed. So I'm excited to see St. Louis come in, and I think they'll be very successful.
Here is the question of the day regarding St. Louis.
Okay.
From Kirk McGirt. Does St. Louis roll with Nelly or Chingy as their local celebrity?
Oh, it better be Nelly. It can't be Chingy. I mean, you don't even know what Chingy is, do you?
No.
That's what I thought. You do.
Nelly,
you do
I remember
know who
with
Nelly
Tim
is,
McGraw.
right?
Yeah, Tim McGraw. Over and over again.
Oh, no, John. No, you didn't just do that. That's how you know Nelly.
Yeah.
You don't know Nelly from anything else.
I probably do, but once you mention it, but off the top of my head, it was the duet with Tim McGraw.
When that's the first thing you know about Nelly, oh boy. That's not good. Yeah, it's got
Or Little House on the Prairie.
No. You dug the hole, then you just put a bomb in it and blew the hole up to smithereens with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to learn about Nelly with St. Louis because the St. Lunatics should be involved in this as well. And I think Murphy Lee can get involved. I don't know what Murphy Lee's up to these days. Nelly has to be that guy in the music scene for them. I don't know if Chingy had the war. He was undisturbing the piece on Ludacris's label, and then I think it didn't go well, and there were a lot of things said that Chingy didn't win that battle of words, and he don't think he won that battle with his career either. So I have not heard of Chingy in a while. Nelly hasn't exactly been lighting it on fire lately either, but body of work, it's got to be Nelly. It's got to be Nelly.
Not Pokey Lafarge.
What? Is that made up?
No.
What is that?
Pokey Lafarge is an American musician, writer, and actor raised in Illinois, now based in Los Angeles, California. Birth name Andrew Heisler.
What does any of that have to do with St. Louis?
He was greatly influenced by his grandfathers. One was a member of the St. Louis Banjo Club, who gave him his first guitar and tenor banjo.
Okay.
Hey, I did a search for St. Louis musicians, and when I see a Pokey Lafarge come up behind Nelly and Chingy, you know I'm going to go down there because there's Murphy Lee, Pokey Lafarge, and then it goes to actress Ellen Foley, Jaquan.
Oh, Jaquan, he had one hit.
Cavo, Bunny Grunt. So that's where we are with St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm seeing that the full-time report music in St. Louis is going to be a lot of Nelly. It's going to be a whole lot of Nelly.
The Urge?
It might drop tipsy from Jaquan into it. Story of the year. All right, you get some pop punk, little emo in there. Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot of options. It's a little disappointing. So, Kurt, they're gonna have to go with Nelly because they don't have a whole lot of other options.
Bartimus Prime this morning, getting back to our referees discussion. The U.S. Soccer Fed Pro and MLS need to do a better training of consistent refereeing. Training is done at the hyper-local level, and most referees don't receive training until they're identified as being a good ref. Everyone needs regular training at all levels.
1,050%.
11 billion%.
It's a huge issue. And just like U.S. Soccer has put a greater emphasis in recent years on coaching education, they have to do the same on the referee side. They absolutely have to, or it's not going to change. They have to recruit more referees. They have to then have a system in place to keep them, and part of keeping them is going to be educating them and training them and working with them and not just waiting until a few emerge. There's a bunch of issues with this. It's not easy if you're a kid who decides to referee in the youth game right now because you're going to go out and you're going to get screamed at by parents. And a lot of teenagers are like, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. I'm out. So that's one issue that's going to have to get resolved. 2, once these referees get identified, I have no idea what the process is to be proactive at a state level, because that's where it's going to start. Okay, you're a promising young referee. All right, we're going to bring you into this course and train you even further. Well, 1, cost, because you're going to have to pay for it. And 2, like, what's the system for that? You know, are you bringing in former referees who are passing on that knowledge? What's the goal as well? Because I think also you get into a situation where there's a very big difference between being a top youth referee and wanting to be a professional referee. It's kind of like 2 different tracks. And then you do get into it further where you get down the road and there are separations in terms of top referees doing women's matches and men's matches. So there's a lot of challenges to this, but it's something that I just don't know what the plan is. And I don't know if there is one.
I think that's the issue.
It's got to change. It's something that I want to dig deeper into and figure out, and if there's anything that can be done to advance it, I want to help do that because I think it's a critical issue, and it's not to constantly throw shade at referees, because I think being a center referee in a professional soccer match is the most difficult refereeing, umpiring, whatever job in sports. I don't think it's even close because you've got to run 10 to 15 miles a game. You've got to be able to sprint in the 90th minute to be in position to make a call that could change the outcome of the match. You've got to keep your head doing all of that while you have 22 players around you yelling at you and who knows how many thousands of people in the stands yelling at you, and you've got to stay level-headed. Incredibly difficult, and you're manning the whole field. You've got 2 guys with flags on the outside who can help you. You've got a headset. You got a 4th official who is starting to be more involved in helping you, although that's not really their role, and it should be expanded. And now you have, at the professional level, in MLS anyway, you have video assistant referee there to help you as well. Still, the most difficult job in sports in terms of being a referee or an umpire or whatever.
Bart's follow-up.
All that being said, I really do think that the Federation is not doing enough to grow the pool of referees or to develop them once you do start to identify them And all the work on the players being better, and American soccer players, the American leagues, top to bottom, better than it was 10 years ago. Not even close. Coaching, better overall, because there's been an emphasis on it. Coaching development, coaching education, better. There's still room to grow, but better. Refereeing, I don't know what's been done to do anything about it.
Yeah, Bart's follow-up, we can't wait for someone to stand out before we give a referee proper training. Needs to be frequent, no matter the referee level, and needs to be consistent instruction and curriculum from the USSF beyond yearly recertification.
It comes down the pike a little bit, and this is what you have to realize about the structure of the game. And this is why in the United States I think it's more difficult than anywhere else, because it's very hard for the U.S. soccer to impact referees, coaches, players in the same way as a Germany, for example. Size. It's flat out size is one issue. You're going to have differences in the way that the game is coached, the way that the game is played in Texas versus Idaho. It is. You have different influences in those states. You have different things that affect it. You have different sizes of clubs. You have different levels. I mean, it's very complicated. U.S. soccer can't do all that by themselves because they can't be everywhere. The states have to be involved following instruction from U.S. soccer. And also, because when you start as a referee, you're starting getting that state-level certification. So the states have to be involved. But then also, it goes even further. It's got to be the clubs. Because clubs focus on developing players. Clubs focus on developing coaches. Clubs have to focus on developing referees as well. And not just for the long haul, not just of the, a referee coming from Georgia who developed at a club like Inter Atlanta or NASA or UFA. That should be celebrated just like a player reaching the professional level. But also at the club level, in your local games, in your games inside your own league, and in the games that you host or you have referees, you want to have good ones. So the clubs have to invest, because that's where it's really going to start, and that's where you're going to have your first touch points. Your new referees. You can't just do the certification. They get their badge, and here, go work. Cool, you're good. Yep, that's it. Just go work. It's all good. Your assigner has to be a mentor. You have to put on continuing education throughout. Have monthly meetings at least. Do something like that where you bring the referees together. Then you get a young referee who doesn't feel like they're out on their own. They're struggling dealing with parents. They can talk about it with the assigner. Maybe the assigner can step in, do something about it, mention it to coaches. You can start to get this communication a little bit better. It's got to start at the club level, like hyper-local. U.S. soccer needs to help put things in place so clubs can easily do it and states can easily do it, but it's got to start as low down as the club level for it to really have an effect. It's really got to be a priority going forward, because look at how many professional teams there were 10 years ago versus now. A whole lot more now. That's more games. The level is better and faster than it's ever been. And there just hasn't been the same point of emphasis on making the referees better and faster and quicker and just growing the referee pool. It hasn't been enough of an emphasis, and it's got to change. So I hope it can, and I hope it's something that U.S. Soccer is taking very seriously, because it does have an effect. It does have an effect at the professional level, and this is what I always tell people is you look at MLS and you say, well, they don't have enough good referees. Okay, take a step down. There's not enough to cover USL Championship, which has grown a ton. So you need more referees who can handle a second division. All right, take a step down. USL League One. They're struggling for top referees. You're bringing a lot of young guys through that league. NWSL. Talk about referees there too. Youth games. Referees. It's an issue all the way across the board, because the overall national emphasis has been non-existent.
The Soccer for Good OG, Jill Robbins, says there is a total revamp of the referee program from the Fed happening now. Lots of moving parts, and the jury is still out on how much it'll change, but she's hopeful.
It's a start, so that's good to hear. It's a really good start. The coaching side went through that too. And if you've been involved in clubs and coaching education, there's been some stops and starts and changes and focuses and emphasis and all kinds of stuff that have happened there. So I hope they can get it a little bit quicker on the referee side. But, yeah, there's got to be something. And for me, it's just that continuing education component. And Jill has done this, with Soccer in the Streets and referees that we brought through there. Jill would get them together to have these conversations on a regular basis and create opportunities wherever possible, which is a little difficult for an organization like Soccer in the Streets that is a nonprofit and doesn't have the same resources as other clubs. Would try to bring referees in to talk to these young referees on the way up to keep them motivated and keep them growing and keep them moving forward. One of my favorite stories from being at Soccer in the Streets was a player I had who was a good player, a really smart player, not the most athletic, was probably going to top out pretty quick as a player going into the top levels, became a top-level referee, and still referees. I know he did some high-level high school games. I want to say he's done a high school state championship. But that was the path for him. And it can be for a lot of people who want to be involved in the game and aren't going to make it as a player. That's okay. I'd love to see clubs celebrate. That was something that I always talked about and would mention is like, hey, we've had a player go to college. We've had this player go here, this player go here. But we also had this referee go here. Like, I hope that clubs will take that part and embrace it a little bit more. I want to see more referees come out of the state of Georgia and move on to those top levels. We are seeing some in Major League Soccer. We're seeing some referees start to break through. Nick Aranga is one who is a Georgia guy. There's others. Guido Gonzalez is a Georgia guy. Starting to break into MLS. We need more. Need more across the board.
Katie Weaver, getting back to the action on the field. I quite enjoyed seeing Pitti make one of the best defenders in the league look a fool on multiple occasions. Also glad to see him get some league recognition with Team of the Week. Now if we can get some goals, #Overreaction Tuesday.
Yeah, man. Pitti had one he put over the bar, skimmed the top of the bar, missed the far upper 90 by a foot maybe on one great opportunity. Barco put one over. Joseph had a bad shot too. Tito put one over the bar to join the club late. You're going to have games like that. Pitti's had a few. You'd love to see him get one of these spectacular goals. But on the ball, on the dribble, his passing, it's twofold for me on the passing side. I think Pitti is just sharper than he has been this season. I think also you're getting teammates who are starting to realize how he plays and be ready to deal with some of the passes that are unexpected. He's a very unpredictable player. Now you're getting teammates who are a little more used to it and can start to predict it a little bit. Maybe not quite as fast as you'd like, but they're getting there. But him on the dribble, deadly.
Shiva, going back to our discussion about Red Bull, she goes, I want to know how Red Bulls can maintain their pitch so well. It looks amazing.
They need to share that with some other teams because there's some around the league that, oh boy, DC, yeah, not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've wondered about that. I mean, I'm just assuming it's quality staff. We've talked about it where you look at some of the stadiums in Argentina when I throw up games on TIC, for example, and stadium built in the 20s, looks like it needs a fresh coat of paint, among other things. But the pitch, immaculate. How does that happen? Red Bulls, from a surface perspective, I think it might be the best in the league.
Tafka, when referring to Red Bulls, I guess this is a How I Met Your Mother acronym, and referring to the aroma from the pitch.
Okay.
Dowsa downwind of the sewage plant.
Yeah. It's not
so
good.
That's Harrison, New Jersey. The Colonel. Morning, Colonel. He says Atlanta United speaking at the right time and spot on Frank DeBoer's schedule. In my opinion, the Stripes are not the second best team in MLS. I've not yet conceded that LAFC is the best team. Best record, yes. Best team, meh. Hashtag Tuesday Thoughts. Hashtag Overreaction Week.
I think you have to say LAFC is the best team. The way I would phrase that, Colonel, I know where you're going, and I'm with you in that I'm not convinced that LAFC wins MLS Cup. I think they're going to have to show a little bit in a knockout game for that to turn my opinion just a bit. And I'm going off of past history with playoffs last year, with just can they take a punch and get back up? All right. That's a fair question to ask, but throughout this season they've been the best team, and it's almost two different conversations for me. But when you look at the rest of the league, and this was, I guess, part of our conversation on the full-time report, I don't think you can say that Atlanta's not the number 2 team. And I was, honestly, I was saying that and feeling that after the loss at Bank of California Stadium. I thought Atlanta had started to establish themselves as that night. And then the other teams in that conversation, I mean, you just look at the table, you look at where teams are, you give a little bit of leeway to recent results. The other teams in the conversation about who's the second best. Okay, Philadelphia, they're even on points with Atlanta. They just lost over the weekend in Chicago. All right, New York City, 4 points back. Atlanta just beat them. Okay, out west, Minnesota. They drew at home with Orlando over the weekend. LA Galaxy, Atlanta beat them recently. Real Salt Lake, they just lost to LAFC. So that's the top. Okay, DC would be the next one. So it's the top 4 in each conference. Atlanta just beat them recently. So Seattle's recent results, I think, make them fall down that list. That's 9 teams, including LAFC and Atlanta, and I don't think you can put anybody at the same level as Atlanta with those recent results. So I think it's LA. I think it's Atlanta 2, and then it's a bit of a gaggle at 3. Now, is there a gigantic gap between Atlanta and the gaggle? No, there's not. But recent results have to count for something in that conversation. And when you look at Atlanta beating a lot of the teams around them, and the teams that Atlanta didn't play around them, losing games or dropping points at home, I think it's kind of clear that it's LAFC 1, Atlanta 2, and then a battle for the third best team so far this season. That could look different by the end of the year. I think LA will ultimately win the Supporters' Shield. I think they will break the Red Bulls mark. Doesn't mean they win MLS Cup. Beyond that, Atlanta's still got to battle to be that number 2 team and be the top team in the East.
538 came out with their most recent projections of who's going to win MLS Cup. And 54% chance goes to LAFC, and then your other 3 teams, 2, 3, and 4, come from the East. Atlanta United, NYCFC, Philadelphia Union are your 2, 3, and 4.
That feels about right. I mean, when you look at who can win MLS Cup in the East, Atlanta, New York City, I feel good about those 2. I think I still have questions about Philadelphia, DC, Red Bulls being in that conversation. I don't know if they've shown enough to say that they can win the trophy at the end. In the West, I think the Galaxy can. I think they have the talent to. Are they going to be able to put it together? Pavone makes them different, and are they going to be able to put it together? Well, they've got some time to do that, and they'll be a top 4 in the West for sure. LAFC, obviously. Minnesota, I think there's still questions, although getting to the Open Cup final answers some of those. I think Minnesota will be a team to watch for in the West. Then it's RSL, it's Seattle, it's San Jose. Portland, I think, can be, but maybe there's a bit of a question after this result against Atlanta. We'll see how Portland deals with Seattle this weekend. Portland feels like the team that could knock off LAFC because they have an Open Cup. Could Portland be the surprise package? I think they have the talent too. So out west, I feel like LA and Portland have the talent to be in that conversation, but they haven't necessarily shown it all year. Portland's had the scheduling issue too, so they're a little bit hard to read. In the East, I think Atlanta and NYC are the 2 best, and they can win MLS Cup. Philadelphia, DC, and maybe Red Bulls. Maybe. Although I just have so many questions about what's going on with the Red Bulls right now. The Buckmaster Murillo thing, I just don't get it. DC and Philly have shown at times they can be among the best in the East, but they haven't shown it on a consistent basis. Philadelphia has shown it more consistently, obviously, because they're on 45 points. But then you have a loss like they had in Chicago. Atlanta had a loss in Chicago too, and that does factor in. Philadelphia's had some ups and downs that have been a little odd. And Philadelphia, to me, is the one that feels like the greater sum of their parts. Like, they don't have the talent on paper that NYC has, I think that DC has, that Atlanta has, that any of the teams in the top 8 have. But as a whole, they're a good group. That's why this match coming up with Atlanta heading to Philly is going to be really intriguing, because it's a big test for Philadelphia, and I think a chance for them to really prove their quality. Let's take a break here. We've got plenty more to discuss. We've got plenty more to get into. If you have any other St. Louis musical selections, please send them our way.
There aren't a lot
John's
of them.
Pulling out banjo players who were remotely influenced by people in St. Louis. That's the level of St. Louis musical acts that we're talking about, and he didn't know much about Nelly except for Tim McGraw.
Correct.
Come on. Let us know what you think about that. Let us know what you think the St. Louis team should be called. That's what I'm intrigued to see. Do they go St. Louis FC? There is a team already called St. Louis FC. They're not part of this.
Stallion Storm.
I don't think they're going to go with a United. I don't think they're going to go with a City. So are they going to go traditional, or are they going to go with something else? Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think they should do. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, August 20th. It's a Tuesday Thoughts, Overreaction Tuesday, whatever you want to call it Tuesday. That's what we're doing. I think I've realized that it's 10:37 on the East Coast now. My
there you go.
Starting to realize what time it actually is.
Where's your Red Bull?
Sort of. I already had one. And yeah, I got to dispel a nasty rumor that Nick Alifi started last night on the show.
Uh-oh.
I was going to get into all caps on Twitter, but no, I tried to maintain. 7 Red Bulls in a day? I'd be dead. I don't drink 7 Red Bulls in a day. I might have a third one. I usually will have one in the morning and one early afternoon. That's about it. I think the most I've ever had in a day is 4. Ever.
Seriously?
Yeah. What's so? Why is everybody surprised by this?
4 Red Bulls
over the span of a day. Like I'm talking one in the morning at 8:00, and one depending on if it was I didn't get much sleep. Okay, maybe one late in the morning or before lunch. And usually, if I have a fourth, and I'm talking the 12 ounces, not the little tiny ones, the 12-ouncer ones. If I have a fourth one, it's usually because there's a game that night. That would be it.
True.
And I need to be going that night pretty late. That would be the fourth one. But yeah, it's usually 2. It's definitely not 7, Nick. I'd be dead.
Not 7.
7? I'd be dead. There's no way. I couldn't handle it.
No. Nathan Pugh says that you need to quit building up Orlando. We all know what they are, and then posts a still of the cowardly lion from The Wizard of Oz. Since he's crap, Montreal and Orlando leak goals. Our talent should win hands down. Hopefully mentality stands firm with the talent.
No, talent should win the East. I 100% agree. And I don't think Orlando's that type of team. I think they can make the playoffs. And I think they can give Atlanta problems on Friday for sure. Absolutely. Because anytime you go on the road, you should be expecting problems. Well, look, DC went to Vancouver. I don't think they expected problems. They got problems. It can happen. Cincinnati is a little different, but they have won 5 games. Somehow. I don't know how, but somehow. It can happen. You can't take anything for granted. I think Orlando's a better team than they've ever been. And I'm really fascinated to see how James O'Connor manages things. Now that he has talent to work with, and now that he has talent in the right places to work with, I want to see how O'Connor steps up as a tactician in moments like Friday. What's his strategy going to be? How is he going to manage the personnel he has? What's the game plan going to be against a team that is playing as good as anybody in the league right now in Atlanta United? So, Montreal, I've never been able to figure it out about Montreal, and I feel like it's the same conversation we've had for 3 years about the impact. They should be better than they are. They're not. They've changed managers. They've changed some of the pieces. They brought in some good pieces here. Nacho Piatti's injury hurts them in a big way again. You added Bojan Krkic. Okay, that should help you out. But, again, how long does it take for him? We don't know. I can't figure Montreal out. I've never been able to figure them out. The Revolution are a team in the postseason that I wouldn't want to see. Not in a one-game playoff. We were just talking about this during the break. The format now for the postseason for Major League Soccer will invite chaos into the mix in a greater way than it ever has before. A 180-minute series can invite some chaos. Champions League can be a crapshoot. when you look at it in UEFA, for example. All the talk about Manchester City and the Champions League, they've shown their quality by winning the league and having as many points as they've had over the last few years. The Champions League can be a crapshoot based off the draw, based off what happens in 180 minutes. Now you're taking 90 minutes away, and you're taking it down to 90 minutes, maybe with some extra time. Even more of a crapshoot. How many times do we see in football, which would be the closest comparison in a playoff format, how many times do you see a great team get knocked out by a lesser quality team in a playoff game? Happens not all the time, but it happens more often than you would think. I think when you look at a baseball series, a basketball series, a best of 7, generally the better team wins, although you do get upsets. It does happen. This format, LAFC could have the best year in Major League Soccer by a long margin and lose in the first game. It could happen. Atlanta could have a great season, could close out with all wins, lose in the first game, because it's your whole season comes down to 90 minutes. Very, very difficult.
Let's see, where are we here on the board? Michael Cinco. Has Breck Shea's injury actually been good for Atlanta United because it forced Frank de Boer to tinker with the wingback spot, allowing Miram to shine? No offense to Shea. Once/if Bello gets back in the mix, could Miram also give Gressel a spell on the right?
It opened a door. I think Miram could move over to the right. Not as effective, but he could. I'm intrigued to see how everything ends, because that injury did force you into a situation where you had to be creative. It wasn't as easy as I think some have made it out to be, because you didn't have a wing back. You didn't have a left back, so you couldn't play 4. It's better to take that risk with an extra center back behind you and play somebody unfamiliar as a wing back. Miram has just been outstanding in that role, because it doesn't always work that way. When you try to convert a winger to a defensive role, it doesn't always work that way where they get it. And I watched in this one, because of where our positioning was, we were off to the right of the TV shot. We were off to the right of the midfield stripe, right behind Atlanta's bench. Up high, but behind it. And I could see Frank de Boer so often talking with Justin Miram in the second half, making sure the positioning was right, constantly communicating, because it is unfamiliar. So you got lucky in some ways that it's worked out, but that injury, it forced you into something that you might not have went to, and it's worked. Now, what happens when Bello's available? We'll have to see. Miram's playing so well that you don't have to rush Bello at all. You want to get him into the mix. You want to make him available. You want to get him playing some games at the MLS speed, at the MLS quality. So you want to find some opportunities for him, because it gives you another weapon, and it gives you the possibility to play 4 in the back when Escobar's healthy as well, that you haven't had in a while, which you might need at some point. Maybe not to start, but maybe in a game. Maybe where you have to make a change. Maybe you have to match up better with the opposition. You want to have that flexibility. So you want to get Bello some time, but I think the way it's working right now, Miram and Gressel as your wingbacks, until somebody proves it wrong that it's not going to hold up against a top team, I think you keep rolling with it.
Question to the floor from Kefsi. Kefsi says, the team from the city of Kennesaw has reached 90th in the world on Club World Ranking, moving on up from 473rd in 2017 and 301st in 2018. A few more international wins, and I say we asked to play in Atlanta. # Tuesday Thoughts.
The world ranking is crazy to me. I don't know about this Club World Ranking, to be honest. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Then to follow that up, David Benson, I think, with the QOD, at least in hour number 2. He says, speaking of scarves, where's the SDH 2019?
Oh man, it's in development, and it's been stuck in development for a while. It needs to happen ASAP, and it will be a Holding Midfielders Appreciation Society scarf. We are bringing that phrase back, and I think we almost have to with the way Darlington Nagby's been playing lately, huh?
Yeah. So we'll get on the design of the HMAS Soccer Down Here scarf for 2019, and I know that you and I have discussed in business meetings about other things that will be made available to the faithful audience this season, and those will be coming out not quite post haste, but somewhat haste.
Yes, somewhat haste. Hopefully post haste, somewhere in between post haste and somewhat haste. How about that?
Yes. So pretty haste. Pretty hasty.
There we go. That works.
Katie Weaver, read the refs. Maybe if Geiger would have flashed trophy tattoos on Insta like Clattenburg or Marufo works the guns like Webb in his prime, that's a joke. But fame and status / personalities to look up to and recognition could make refereeing a more attractive pass. Also, parents, stop yelling at 14-year-olds.
Yes, that please, because that's gotten way beyond where it needs to be. I mean, when I hear stories about rec league games and referees being screamed at, no, stop. Even further up the ladder, when you're dealing with very competitive youth games with teenagers playing and maybe slightly older teenagers refereeing, stop. Just stop. It's not helping the game when you do that, because what happens? These kids aren't making a lot of money doing this. They don't want to put up with being screamed at by people on the sideline who a lot of times don't know what they're talking about. So please don't do that. Please support these young referees, because they're going to make your club better if you're supporting them. And if you're on the road and you feel like the referees were bad, don't scream at the kid. Find out what their development plan is for referees. Ask your coaches to talk to their coaches or DOC or whatever to figure out, well, what are you doing to make your referees better? Instead of screaming at a kid who might not be getting the right support, mentorship, education, and is just going to end up quitting and leaving that club one referee short. It's not helping the game to do that at all. Professionals, different story. Yes, they get paid to deal with it. I don't know if they get paid enough to deal with it sometimes, but they get paid. The things that can change it, for me, one, clubs celebrate referees in the same way they celebrate players moving on to higher levels. That needs to happen. Clubs have to put more time developing referees. I hope that the current generation of referees take a little bit of ownership of developing the next generation as well. And I think a lot of referees do, maybe more so than coaches do, where they will go and speak at a recertification class, or they will go and talk to people at the club that they came from, whatever. That needs to happen because, yeah, young referees who want to make it to the professional game need role models too. Absolutely. And straight up, money talks. Pay more. You make it more attractive as a job, people will put more time into being good at it.
Katie's also helping us out from the St. Louis perspective when Atlanta United is playing in St. Louis. She says, well, ExploreStLouis.com is claiming Michael Stipe.
He was born there, but no, they don't get Michael Stipe.
Yeah, REM frontman Michael Stipe grew up in Collinsville, Illinois. Also, quote, Kennett, Missouri native Sheryl Crow spent several years teaching music and performing in St. Louis, end quote.
Okay, they can claim Sheryl Crow. Michael Stipe didn't do that, though, so no, they don't get to claim him. He was in, I think he moved around a little, if I remember right. Dad was in the Army, if I remember right, so he moved around a fair bit, and then, no, we're claiming Michael Stipe. I'm not allowing that, St. Louis.
See? Starting
I'm gonna
arguments
fight,
already.
I'm gonna fight that one.
Before the announcement of the team, we're starting musical arguments.
Well, no, the St. Louis whatever website is the one who started that, and it just got finished, so it's all good.
ExploreSt.Louis.com.
Well, they're incorrect. Ben Fredrickson at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch with an article about potential names for the team, and some of it's joking, but here's his working list: St. Louis City. No, I don't think it needs that. St. Louis United. We already got Uniteds, but I mean, whatever. I don't think it would have anything to do with it. Like, I don't know. How would you sell that? I don't know. I think you can make something work with it, definitely. I don't know if the league necessarily wants another United. You see a bunch of Uniteds in other leagues, so it's not as big of a deal as some would make it out to be. I don't know if it would mean a whole lot. St. Louis Flood.
Oh.
I mean, you have the Chicago Fire and the San Jose Earthquakes, but the
Yeah.
St. Louis Kings. Now, this one's actually okay. The city was named after King Louis IX.
Okay.
His statue at Art Hill has been an iconic image of the city since 1906. St. Louis Kings.
Okay. Would
St.
not
Louis
have thought of that.
Archers. You have the Archers.
Arch.
And an arch.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's too much of a stretch.
No, I don't like it. St. Louis FC.
You and everybody else.
Yeah, but you
Isn't there already a team?
Yes, and that would have to play into that. St. Louis Kings. I could roll with that.
What about the Stallions or the Storm?
The Storm. That sounds like a indoor team from the 1990s.
It's kind of where I was coming from.
Well, this is not an indoor team, and it's not the 1990s. So, no. And it's something that I think soccer has battled with for years and years and years. The move to the more traditional kinds of names, I think is good. I think it's helped. I mean, you went for a while where it was like every team that would start up, you'd throw an X into the team name or a Z somewhere, even where it maybe shouldn't be, and it just, no. Didn't work. Extreme, bruh. That's what it felt like.
And
now
it's the letter X in extreme.
Well, of course. Now it's went the opposite way. And you've got a bunch of Uniteds, you've got a bunch of cities, you've got a bunch of FCs, you've got some SCs. Okay. That's not bad. And I'll go back to the conversation that I had with people that made my head kind of turn a little bit from a non-soccer perspective. There were a lot of people who didn't like the name Atlanta United, but I talked to folks who were not coming from a soccer background, and they loved it because it sounded like a soccer team to them. St. Louis Storm sounds like an arena football team.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from.
It doesn't sound like a soccer team. Like, other than there
Indoor
have
football.
been soccer teams called the Storm. Arena football, same thing. Any football, whatever. It doesn't sound like a soccer team. St. Louis Kings feels like one that makes some sense with the city.
Yeah.
It's got a mascot, which is traditional in American sports. It happens in other countries too, but it's not as common. But it happens. But it's not the Storm or the Extreme or something that feels like a reach. St. Louis Kings, maybe. But I kind of think they're going to go more traditional in some form or fashion of a City United, FCSC, whatever.
That'd be my gut.
Yeah. Kings would be the one that, okay, I could maybe work with that.
Or the Kings of St. Louis?
No, because that's dumb. Because so you're going to do what they did in the ABA and be the Spirits of St. Louis. Nobody's going to call them that.
They call them the Kings anyway.
If your team
because they
name
just call them the Spirits.
If your team name is the Kings of St. Louis, it's not St. Louis Kings. It's Kings of St. Louis. That's just awkward. If you're going to do that, just call them St. Louis Kings.
Daniel Price has a lineup question.
Okay.
I know it's a little early, but what are we expecting lineup-wise? Who gets a break in anticipation of the Open Cup final? Is this a second-string game where we throw in people who need minutes, Carlton, Bello, Kratz, Ambrose, Pereira, Parkhurst, etc.?
No, definitely not a second-string game because you've got time in between and you don't have much travel to deal with. So definitely not a second-string game. You could see a little bit of rotation here and there, but I guess if you're looking at people you'd be worried about, I think Julian Gressel's played a lot of minutes lately, a lot of hard minutes, maybe holding him back. If you want to get Tito Villalba into the mix, is he able to give you more minutes than he has been? Maybe this would be a game you do it. Maybe you hold Pitti back. Maybe you have those guys available off the bench because of the amount of minutes they've played lately. But I don't think you're looking at going second choice because of the Open Cup final. I really don't because, and it's not diminishing the Open Cup final. I think you go for that 100%. It's just that you traveled back yesterday. You get your regen day to day. You're going to do a good session tomorrow. Train Thursday, travel Thursday, play Friday, quick trip back on Saturday, probably regen on Saturday, train Sunday, light session Monday, play Tuesday. You're in a normal pattern with that. That's okay. You can manage that. You're just going to be looking at individual workloads. That's all. And it's just going to be down to if anybody needs it, okay. Rotate them in, rotate them out. That's it. I think Gressel and Pitti would be the two that I look at. You also have Remedi and Escobar that you don't know what their availability is going to be. You don't have to force them back in. You know, how's Jeff feeling after back-to-back 90s? How's Pogba feeling after back-to-back 90s? Could Parkhurst come in for Pogba, for example? Absolutely. I could see that. But I don't think you have to force it.
Michael Head, and shout out to Michael, by the way. He's still reveling in Sunday's win, listening live in the Oregon wine country.
Very cool.
What a match. Great to see Nagby playing so well. Providence Park is a must-see. Looking forward to MCO on Friday. But shout out to Michael, who's apparently having breakfast in the Oregon wine country listening to the show.
That's very nice. Good stuff, Michael. For those of you who are figuring out what you're going to do for Friday, there's an event that I want to let you know about, and there is a special opportunity for listeners of the show, which is very
special
cool.
Opportunity.
Valverde and Company, Michael Valverde, who chimes in quite often on the show. Michael is hosting a fundraiser and Atlanta United watch party at Eventide Brewing in Grant Park. The first 25 people to DM Michael on Twitter at ContentMind will be placed on the guest list. It's an invitation-only event. You'll get a confirmation via DM. You're going to get 2 Eventide microbrews. You're going to get gourmet pizza from Baker Dude. Game will be on the big screen. It's a fundraiser for soccer in the streets. So you will be asked to make a donation to support it. And you'll also be supporting our friend Jessica Sharman's performance in the Black Tie soccer game. So this is a fundraiser for local soccer in the streets programs that Jessica, Michael, and others are putting on, Valverde and Company putting on over at Eventide Grant Park. You want to be part of it, send a direct message on Twitter to Michael at ContentMind, and you'll be on the guest list. Donations strongly encouraged to support the kids at Soccer in the Streets. But a pretty cool invitation-only event.
And I think isn't Ricky Bevington on Jessica's team as well?
Yes. Ricky is playing on Jessica's team. Kevin Egan is playing on Jessica's team as well.
That's a stack.
That's a good team. Jessica will be there on Friday as well.
David Benson. My 17-year-old daughter, who's played academy and select soccer since 4, reffed this past season after $200 up front for class and gear, says she'll never ref again after an hour of parents at a U10 rec match wanting to fuss and argue about offside.
It's a U10 rec match. It's a U10 rec match that you're not going to remember the result in 7 days. Stop doing this to kids, y'all. And not y'all that are listening to the show right now, hopefully, but y'all in the greater sense of it. Don't do this to these kids who are making chump change after paying. That's absolutely true. You got to pay for the class. You got to pay for the gear. It's not easy to do. Don't make it easy for these kids to say, you know what, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be screamed at on my Saturday morning. The $10, $15, $20, $30, it's not worth it. It's not how I want to spend my weekend. And then you wonder why you can't find referees.
Mm-hmm. And Nick Alifi is co-signing everything that you have been saying this morning, basically saying parents have to take a step back and let the ref do their job. Only time parent needs to get involved is when it becomes a safety issue for the child.
And even then, don't scream at a young referee. Talk to the field manager. Talk to whatever staff is from the club that's there. If it's your club, talk to your people. If it's you're playing away somewhere, talk to that club's people. Don't take it out on the referee. You're talking about kids. Don't do that. Treat them with respect because they're trying to do this. There's no referee that I've ever met, and I'm sure there's some in other countries that have been paid to do otherwise, but that's a different question. And maybe it's happened here too. I don't know. But I've never met a referee who said, I want to screw this game up. I want to make this team angry at me. Doesn't happen. So don't go in with that impression and just go easier on these kids. Because every sport's dealing with it right now. It's not even just a soccer thing. You're getting... I don't know if high school football in Georgia is at this point. I think it had been in the past at different stages where
still hurting.
It's hurting, and small classifications of high school football are having problems getting games scheduled for referees. It's happening in soccer too. Happens with lower level college. Happens with lower level Classic and Athena. It happens. One of the reasons it happens, this stuff.
Last thought on the board this morning from Kurt, along the lines of our St. Louis discussion. He is suggesting Real St. Louis or Gateway City SC.
See, I wonder about those, the Gateway City FC type of name, or Arch City, or whatever you want to play with it. I wonder if those work outside of our soccer bubble. We're used to team names in soccer not having to do with the city that they're in. Generally, American sports are not. I mean, outside of a region name or a state name as opposed to a city name, there's still a location attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Arsenal doesn't have that. So soccer people are used to it. Is that going to work in the mainstream conversation? And I think it's a really important reminder. One of the major successes of Atlanta United is not just soccer fans being turned on to it, but sports fans. Every club needs that to get out of the smaller bubble that they can be in and get into a bigger world that they can draw from. Would a Gateway United, Gateway City, would any of that do that? Or would people look at it and say, what is this? I don't know what that is. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have a question about it, and I would really be doing some major focus groups on that if that was the direction I wanted to go. And I would also be talking to local media and just what would the reaction be to this? I don't know if it would be I don't know if it'd be good or bad at this point. I think 5 years ago it wouldn't have worked. No way. No. Now maybe, possibly. You're going to have to really brand it well and sell it well. But maybe. I just don't know if we're quite ready for that yet. And if you didn't have Real Salt Lake, I would absolutely be down with a royal aspect, a Real St. Louis or something. But with Real Salt Lake and Real St. Louis, That's 2 RSLs. I don't think we're going down that road.
And when Real St. Louis played Real Salt Lake,
RSL
and RSL, that would be a broadcastering nightmare.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to work. It would have worked really well. St. Louis Kings, I'm honestly pretty good with it.
All right. Yeah, I want to see where they go, and that announcement is scheduled for the bottom of the hour.
12:30 Eastern Time.
12:30 Eastern Time. So the bottom of the next hour. Sorry.
Yes, there we go. Couple things before we finish up. So 2's tomorrow night up in Kennesaw. Looking forward to that. Want to see who's in the lineup. That might give us some.
Isn't that next week?
About Friday. Is it next week? I don't know what day it is.
Day after the Open Cup.
There we go. See, I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, so we have Open Cup and then the day after Open Cup, because you were frightening me there for a second because the boss is singing the anthem at that match, and she's in Texas currently, so that'd be kind of hard.
Okay, good. So we don't have the 2's tomorrow. That's good. I can back off on the studying. That's how my calendar's been lately.
Yes.
Oy.
So, yes. Now, tomorrow is just a Wall Pass Wednesday for us.
Tomorrow's a lot of MLS games.
That too.
Tomorrow, you've got some matches around the table. Tonight, you've got Leagues Cup. LA Galaxy have added Christian Pavón and Zlatan Ibrahimovic to their Leagues Cup roster. I think Felipe Cardenas was correct. That is the Campeones Cup effect. Oh, wait a minute. This can be a big deal. All right, let's bring in the heavyweights. And they will be playing Cruz Azul. That's tonight, 10:30 Eastern on ESPN2. Tomorrow around the league, you've got NYC and Columbus. You've got DC and Red Bulls. You've got LAFC and San Jose. All intriguing matches. Maybe the last 2 are the most intriguing. So we'll preview those tomorrow. We'll have stoppage time tomorrow over at the 92.9 The Game studios. Lots of stuff. St. Louis will dominate the conversation the rest of the day and be waiting to see what they have to say, if they drop any hints on names and branding and colors and those types of things that we always look for. We'll get into all of it on the show tomorrow morning. I'm going to go I have a meeting here in a bit, and then I'm going to get some more sleep because I'm exhausted.
Yes. Do that.
Yes. That's what we're going to do. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, everybody, for listening last night as well to Soccer Over There. We'll be back at the Brew House next week for that.
It's up on the platform.
John got it on the right show now. It's good. Good work.
It only took me 12 hours.
Yeah, there's that. It's all good. It's all good. And John's going to study up on Nelly and the St. Lunatics.
That, yes.
I want you to be able to name 3 Nelly songs that don't have anything to do with Tim McGraw that were hits for tomorrow.
That were hits?
I want to know what your 3 favorite Nelly songs are that have nothing to do with Tim McGraw. That'll be tomorrow's question of the day.
And we're not talking Nelly Furtado.
No, not St. Louis.
All right.
No.
Okay.
Okay. And
I'm thinking Right With Me might be a contender.
We're going to leave it at that note because that's just perfect. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in all morning. Thanks for chiming in during our impromptu AMA on a plane last night. That was a lot of fun, too. So, mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.